Hey, everybody. Welcome to our new series where we're going to be going through some of the certification content that we need to do in order to maintain partner status or just even establish a partnership with a specific company. Today, we're going to be covering Xray. And more specifically, Xray has 11. I don't have enough fingers, but they have 11 courses that we need to take as a partner so that we can establish this partnership with Xray and be able to qualify for like discounts and things of that nature. And so we are going to be doing the Xray setup for cloud today. Should take us about an hour to get through all the material. And this is going to be a little bit of me commentating, kind of reading through the slides, walking through the material. And hopefully in the end of the hour, you're going to know how to set up Xray for the cloud. And so again, this is kind of just us here, release team, just documenting our journey since we have to do this work in order to do the certification that we're going to do eventually. This is one of 11 classes. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and we're going to be dropping a lot of Xray content here over the next few days. So let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen here so we can actually get into the course. Again, this is Xray Setup for cloud. And so before we begin, you should have a basic understanding of Xray and how it works, the concepts, a basic understanding of Jira administration, project creation, issues, types, schemes, and workflows. Now, I'm going to change project to space and issues to work items whenever I can. I'm going to try to catch myself. And if you don't have this basic knowledge, you may want to take the Xray Essentials for Xray Cloud. Now, I have recorded that one, and it's going to be uploaded in the recorded or the video section of this channel. These videos are going to be in the live section of this channel. So again, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And then, of course, the Jira Administration course, which is available in the Atlassian University. All right, so let's jump in. We definitely have some of those basic requirements. We've already done the first class, and I know a thing or two about Jira. All right, so what can be configured in Xray? So let's start off with some requirements and defects. So what is a requirement? A requirement is a coverable issue. For example, an issue that you can test with. For example, see, this is why I wasn't sure if I wanted a live stream. What is a requirement? A coverable issue, i.e. an issue that you can cover with tests. What is a requirement in Jira? Well, a requirement in Jira can be any issue type. Again, these are not work types, including stories and epics and other, if they're configurable to be handled as, and what they do, quote unquote, requirements. So basically, a requirement is basically any work that can be covered by a test. And we're going to cover tests in a while. But in Jira, a requirement is literally any type of work. Most commonly, it's the story or the epic, sometimes even the task. And this is just showing you that inside of the Xray settings, there is a section where we get to define, us as the administrator, we get to define which work types are going to be considered the coverable work types that are then going to satisfy that coverage section of the test. So again, we'll get into those details a little bit later, but just know this is a critical first step here that you want to set up. Now, beware of some semantics. Requirements in Xray are not requirements in strict waterfall sense. They have a broader scope. They're going to be the work items that you can cover with tests depending on the work item. Example of work types that can be considered as requirements is going to be your stories, your epics, your improvements, your new features. So that should be pretty clear on the requirements. Now let's get down to what is a defect. So they are reported during test execution and represent a condition in the system that does not meet the requirement or end user expectation. So again, this is the generic definition of a defect. Now we're going to go to what it means in Jira. And in Jira, it can be any work type, including the bug, most commonly the bugs. Those are usually the ones that most people use. But it can be anything that's configurable to be handled as a defect. And I'll show you what that means in a second. Bug is the most common work type mapped as a defect. It needs to be done explicitly, though. And what they mean is there's a defect section. So earlier we were looking up here, there's a test coverage section. These are settings within Xray. These are settings you're going to want to configure when you're installing and deploying Xray in your organization. You want to do the test coverage here. You want to identify which work types are going to be your test coverage. And then you want to go to your defect mapping, and then you want to identify which work types, because you might have a defect type. You might have an incident type. You might have a problem type, right? So whatever types you have, you're going to want to identify them as the defect one so that it can be used if and when you go to actually create a defect as you're running through your tests. So discuss with your team which work types you will consider as requirements and defects. If none of the existing issue types are suitable, you can always create new ones. Nevertheless, remember that you can reuse existing issue types and you don't need to create extra ones. Can I use a bug as a requirement in Xray? Technically, yes. I wouldn't. No, a bug can never be used as a requirement. Let's see. I think this is a trick question, but only if the bug represents something that must be validated through testing. Let's go with this answer. I think this is the right one. Didn't complain, so I guess we got it right. All right, so how to map requirements and defects. So in this video, we're going to show you how to actually enable the stories as requirements and the bugs as defects. So I'm going to just I'm actually going to mute the audio here, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through the steps that are happening in this video. Kind of go full screen here for you. So first thing is you got to go to your space settings, and then you want to expand apps, and you want to go to Xray settings. If you've installed Xray, this is going to be available in all your spaces. Then you want to go to test coverage, and this is where you're going to see the list of all the available word types, and just drag and drop. That's all you got to do. You drag and drop, and then as you scroll down, you're going to be able to select the relationship. So these are going to create that, basically that dependency between the two word types. Then we're going to go to defect mapping, find any of the bug type, hit save, and there's not anything extra you got to do here. And then that's it. So after you've done that, you basically have done the very critical first step of identifying which items are going to be our requirements and which ones are going to be our bugs. Yay, that's awesome. That's easy. Now let's learn how to add Xray work types and screens. So when installing Xray, you will have a new work item available that need to be added to your issue type schemes. Okay, now they're called work type schemes. So each one of the Xray work items need to have proper screen configurations. So if you've never done Jira administration, this part might be a little rocky. I'm going to try to explain them both to you so you can understand the differences here. But just know that this is, you want to treat this the way you would normally treat adding a new custom word type like a risk or a spike or something of that nature, right? Think of those agile terms. We're just going to be adding these new word types that are very specific to Xray, but they're going to behave in Jira just like a story, a task, a bug, or anything else. Okay, so there is a shortcut for doing this configuration in the project settings. If you use the Add Xray Issue Types shortcut, you are also adding the screen schemes for each issue type along with the corresponding screens. So when you click that button, I'm assuming we're going to watch a video in a second, these are the work types that are going to come in. So it's going to be a test, a precondition, a test set, a test plan, test execution, and a subtest execution. Now, if you don't know what any of these are, Xray does have a training that kind of walks you through every single one of these and how they can be used. So you definitely want to watch that Xray Essentials, which again, subscribe to this channel, drop a like. We are going to have them in the regular video section. I had to record those because we hadn't set up this live stream just yet, but they will be available there for you. Just know that this is essentially the key fundamentals of what makes Xray special, that you come with these extra word types. Okay. So each one of these Xray work types needs to have a proper screen configuration. There's a shortcut for doing this in the configuration and project settings. If you use the Add Xray Issues shortcut, you're also adding the screen schemes for each issue type along with the corresponding screens. Your team does not have to use all the work items in their projects. If you want to go for a simple approach, you may use only the test plan, and test execution, because there are a few. You get the test sets, the preconditions, you can knock out some of these. You might not need them all. All right, so now let's watch a video, a quick one, on how to get these word types added. Because again, it's pretty easy. I'm going to mute this audio here. I wish it was muted by default. So you're going to go into your space settings, and then you're going to go over to your apps. Now, this one was a little bit hard to see, but essentially they're going to the space settings, and this is the older UI. But you essentially want to make it to your space settings. You want to go to apps, and then you're eventually going to get to the Xray settings. Once you're there, this is where you're going to see this shortcut that they've been saying, where essentially you're able to add the Xray issues very quickly. So you're going to click on that button. And when you do that, all these like presents in this project, they're going to change. And so Xray is going to go work underneath the hood. And for your company managed spaces, it's going to go and add all these word types in there. So as you can see, they're no longer red, they're now green. And so therefore the word types now exist. So no extra work needed on your behalf. All the screens and everything have been added. All the configuration has been done for you, which is really, really good. All right, so quiz time. So the project manager wants to make sure all bugs are fixed. Someone from the team suggested that you should be able to track coverage status for bugs. What do you need to make this possible? The project manager wants to make sure all the bugs are fixed. Someone on the team suggested that this should be able to track coverage for bugs. Let's see, map stories and epics, add bugs to the coverable issues. I think this is going to be the right one. All right, so it doesn't seem that it stopped us, so I guess we're going to proceed. What advanced configuration can be performed? So these are a couple of extra things that you should be able to do as an administrator. So your Jira issue configuration for Xray issues, you can create new custom fields, configure workflows, set specific permissions, and configure notifications. Now, Xray specific, you can configure the test step fields, you can configure the test run fields, you can configure your coverage settings, and you can customize your test status and test step status. As Xray uses Jira issue types for tests, test sets, test plans, and test execution, you can perform several configuration actions just like you would like a story, a task, or anything and the like. All right, we're going to move on to configuring test steps custom fields. So when we are, again, we're back in our space settings, we go to the Xray settings, we're going to have test step fields, and we're going to be able to configure what the steps are. So normally we have action, data, and expected result, but we can configure this. So test step fields will help you describe and organize the information needed to describe the test step as a manual scripted test. Keep in mind that this is the out-of-the-box configuration. These are the data you're trying to capture that Xray thinks you're going to want. But if you don't want that, you can always change that. So what can be done? So you can set data and expected results required. You can disable data and expected results, and you can add new fields altogether. Why? To make test steps required and promote consistency of test step specifications, and to add extra structured info to your test steps and help testers create normalized test steps. This is really just so that your organization's process is reflected in Xray so that your team, when they go to do the testing, it more closely matches with what you and your team are expecting. That way you don't have to conform your testing process to what Xray is, but rather the other way around. So an example test steps field you can create. So execution domain. In the next video, we're going to show you how to make a test step required and add a new test step field. So let's take a look at how we do this. All right, so again, we're going to space settings. Again, this UI is a little older. I'm actually thinking of doing videos myself now with the new UI. Once you go to the space settings, you're going to go to test step fields, and you're going to come over here to the action menu button, and you can set it as required. So that's going to add the little blue text here. Let me make this big for you. It's going to add that blue text to make it required. Now, if you needed to add a new test step, we can click on that big blue button on the top right corner, give it a type. So we want a toggle switch, give it a name so we know what kind of step we want to do here. And then we can determine if we want the step to be required as well. Hit the create button, and we now have a new test step. Yay. As we move on to the next one, we're going to be configuring test run custom fields. So these can be used to add more structured information about your test run. So what can be done? So you can add new custom fields, edit the custom fields previously created, set custom fields previously created as optional or required, and change the order. So I don't normally mess with the test run custom fields, but they're available, and we're going to take a look at how this works. So again, space settings, go to apps, go to Xray. It's going to redirect you to this section here. We want to go to test run custom fields. Again, I normally don't change these, but it's good to know that you can change them. You can click on that big blue button to create a test run custom field. Choose the type. As you can see, you have a few to choose from. Give it a name. This one's going to be owner. You can optionally give it a description. Give it the test type. So which ones is this going to apply to? In this case, it's going to be for manual. And now we have a test run custom field. We can set it as required. We can edit it, or we can delete it altogether. Simple stuff, guys. We don't have to overcomplicate this. The key takeaway here is just know that you can configure these things to the processes that are important for you and your company. All right, that's the important takeaway. This one I have configured a few times. So this is going to be configuring our test statuses. So the test status is the overall status of a test run, which can be in a final or interim state. It's displayed as at execution status in the execution screen. It's also used for calculated status of a test in some scope. So what can be done? So we can add a new custom status, edit an existing custom status, or delete a custom status. Mapping with a test coverage status. So when creating a new test status, you need to map it with the requirement status. So originally we have like okay, not run, and unknown. These you're going to want to memorize. I'm pretty sure these are going to be in the test somewhere. but you can create a new status. So OK is going to be the requirement has been successfully and fully validated, and all the tests associated have passed. Not OK is that the requirement is unsuccessfully validated, and at least one test has failed. Not run means the requirement has not been validated completely. At least one test associated is still in to do or aborted. And then unknown means, well, I don't know. You throw your hands up in the air. In the next video, we're going to show you how to add a new custom status. All right, so we're going to go this time to the gear, and we're going to go to apps, because we need to go not to the Xray settings for the space, but rather we need to go to the Xray settings for the globalness that is Xray. So very, very important key indicator there. This is not a local change. This is going to be global. So you want to be very careful that, and you definitely need to be a Jira administrator to make these changes. So once you're there, once you're in the Xray settings, you're going to be able to click on those status buttons there. And then you're going to be able to see your existing statuses, and you can add basically a new one. You can do the name, is it final, change the color of it. As you can see, you have the full colors of the rainbow all available to you, and then your test coverage status. And you can choose whether you're going to represent it as OK, not run, or not OK, whatever you want there. Hit OK. And as you can see, it'll add it there, and then that's it. So now when you're going to do your test execution, you can basically select that status, and it's going to positively or negatively impact your test results based on that selection. All right, moving on to configuring test step status. So if the reported status, if the reported result state for a step is inside the test run, the test step status may affect the overall status of the test run. So this is something that you want to be mindful of. So what we just did a few minutes ago was the test status. So this was just the overall statuses in general, right? This is not for the test step, right? So you could do like the whole thing, and now we're doing a specific like the status of a specific step, right? Whether we passed, whether we failed, something else. So here we're going to show you how to add essentially a new step status. So it's not the test run itself. That's what we did previously. This time we're doing the micro step. Again, this is going to be a global setting. This is not something you're going to want to take lightly. This is something that's going to be available to everybody. But if you go to the gear and then you go to your apps and you go to Xray, you're going to see the test step statuses on the left-hand side. Keep in mind that this menu has gotten very tricky now. Atlassian has made some changes, not positively, that negatively impact how this works. And so here you can see our existing step statuses. You can add a new one like blocked. You can add whatever color you want. And then you're going to pick one of the statuses here. We're going to fail it. And then we're going to essentially hit add, and that's it. So you now have your test step status. All right, we are almost there. We're a little bit over halfway. And so we're now going to configure test types. And so these are going to be the types of tests that are available. Now, out of the box, you have manual, generic, and cucumber. Again, you definitely want to look at the Xray Essentials course, as it covers what's the difference between manual, generic, and cucumber. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and go check out our videos, because in the video section, you're going to see this section. Might not be there just yet, but it's definitely going to be there very soon. So we're just going to add a new one. This is, again, to reflect your process. Your company's way of doing testing might not be the manual. It might not align with manual or generic or cucumber. So test type characterizes the test in terms of its nature, so it can be clearly distinguished from other tests. So what can you do? You can add new test types, change the default, delete test types, change the order. So selecting the test kind. So the test kind is when you create a new test type, you must select the nature of the test. You can select one of three kinds. Steps, which are going to be structured and composed of multiple steps. You can select gherkin, which is going to be composed of the gherkin statements given, when, then. Or you can do unstructured, which means it only has one definition field that can be used to define the test case. So by default, upon installation, Xray will create the following test types. And you're going to have manual, generic, and cucumber, but you can add your own. Test types can be inherited by all the types, so it's global, or you can create specific test type at the project level. So let's learn how to do this. All right. So again, this is globally or specific to the space. It looks like we're going to go globally. And I like how they're toggling between the new interface and the older interface. This is the new interface. So this is still going to be a global change the way they're doing it because we're going to apps and then we're going to go to Xray. We're going to go to the app settings for Xray, which is going to shortcut you to the Jira admin only section. We can go to test types. You can then give the name here. So this is going to be exploratory. It's going to be unstructured, and we're going to click add, and that's it. So that means that when you're importing or you're creating a test, you can now pick from that new option there. And these are too simple that they almost seem complicated, but they're just so simple. So if you want to do this locally, right? So we're going to do the same thing that we just did, but this time it's locally instead of that global setting. So this time you want to go to the space settings. You want to go down to your Xray settings at the very, very bottom. And then you're going to go to the test types here, which is right in the middle there. And then you're going to be able to add a new type. But this is only if you enable this, right? So if you don't enable these project settings, then it's always assuming the global one. But if you enable it, then you get to see whatever specific like types you select just for your specific space. So it's very, very space specific. So this time we're going to do an AB, unstructured, click on add, and only this Xray project will be able to see this. You can delete other options too locally from this space. Does not impact those global settings. All right, we're 75% done. I think this is the last module before we go into the quiz. So configuring our test environment. So this is something that usually confuses me as well, but our test environments contain all necessary elements, including the system under test, so you can perform testing on it. So what can be done? So you can add a new test environment, edit a test environment, and delete a test environment. Test environments can be created globally, locally, or inline. I'm assuming we're going to see all three. All right, so first thing, we're going in back into the old UI. We're going to go to apps. So we're going to be going to this global setting here. And this is a global change here. So keep that in mind. Whenever you're doing this, you do need to be a Jira admin. You do need to have the right permissions and know that your impact is global. Click on that environment button there. And these are going to be specific to you and your company. Sometimes you have like a pre-prod, prod, right? Whatever task environment you have. This one has staging and development. You get to define what those look like. Now, if you wanted to define them locally, you want to go into the space first. Then you're going to want to go to the space settings, and then you're going to want to go to the Xray settings there at the bottom left corner. Eventually, we'll get there. There it is. Okay. So again, now you're not local. Now you're not global. This is all local, and so you want to keep that in mind that any changes here are not going to impact other spaces. So here you can create or add an environment. So we can pull in existing ones that were defined globally, or you can essentially create your own if you wanted to. Click on save, and these are going to be added locally here to this space. All right, next up, we have our quiz. So let's take a quiz. I'm not very good at quiz taking, so let's see. Can I specify my own test statuses? Yes, you can globally. And that's going to be globally because it was the test step statuses that could be done at the project level. Please link the Xray type with the correct definition. So we have a test plan. Ooh, we kind of skipped over this part, but I did do the Xray essential, so I should be able to do this. Let's see. The test plan is used to define a scope of test cases, abstracts, initial steps, a flat ordered list, a task. Ooh, I don't know any of these. Let's do precondition. Precondition should be easy. Abstract initial steps that needs to be done. Yes, so that's going to be that one. That takes care of that. Does these remove it? I think it does. Okay. A test is used to define scope of test cases and an aggregate, a flat order list of tests. No, a task for executing a group of tests. No, an abstract of a test idea, independently execution can be scripted, exploratory can be, I think this one. I think the test set is going to be a list of tests. I think that's going to be this one. Used to define the scope of test cases to, let's go with that one, and then let's go with this one. We'll find out. What configurations are possible on test steps? So you can add new fields, you can create new statuses for the test steps, you can set the required fields. I don't know that you can set the default expected results. And can we add custom fields or the equivalent to an Xray entities? Yes. Let's see. All of them, including test runs. Oh, no. I think this is the right answer. Oh, I didn't quite make it. Which one did I miss? So we got the first three right. Can we add custom fields? Okay, so apparently the answer, oh boy, please tell me you're not gonna make me do this again. Try it again. All right, let's start the test. Oh, great. Yes, globally. So we had that one right. Great, now I gotta remember what I did here. So the precondition was the abstract initial stats. The text execution was the one that had execution in it. Used to define. I don't remember these. The test plan. Why can't I remember these? This is almost embarrassing here. Okay. Flat ordered list of tests organized in some logical way. That's going to be the test set. Test idea independently of execution can be scripted. No, that's the test. That's the test. So which one's the test execution? It is used to define the scope of test cases in the aggregate. Oh boy. Let's see if we get this one right. Now we're going to get this one wrong. What configurations are possible? So we could do this, and this. And maybe I need to take a screenshot next time because I'm horrible at taking tests. Can we add custom fields? Yes. So last time we went with that one. Let's see if we get it right. Okay. So we are not getting this right. This is the wrong one. And I'm going to take a picture of this because I am not going to be taking this test 1,000 times. But now we got all these right, correct. So that's good. So now we just got to get our ducks in a row and get our, man, they should have given me partial credit for that last one. That last one's a doozy. All right, let's see if we can get these right here. I got them right at one point, and I do not want to be spending 15 minutes taking this test. So let's go again. This time we're cheating, though. So this is going to be this, and this next. Now we have the hard one. So which one is this? So the precondition, I'm pretty sure I got the precondition right. So that's the abstracts initial done to be done. The test execution is a task for executing a group of tests in a given version. That makes sense. The test is the abstract one. I'm pretty sure this is correct. So now the test set last time, I went with a flat order list, and it didn't like that. So this time we're going to go this one, and then we're going to go this one. All right. We're going to go globally, and then we're going to go this one. Seriously? What did I get wrong? Oh, man. I could have started. So the problem is this one right here. This is giving me a hard time. And I got it right already. Sean's, when he's watching this, is not going to be happy. I might get fired. All right. Let's do it one more time here. How did I get these wrong? Okay. This, and this. This. All right. Now let's focus, folks. Okay. Let's get to this. The precondition, I'm sure. The precondition is an abstracts the initial steps that must be done and sure before starting the test. That one I'm 100% sure. The test execution. Well, let's do the test. I'm pretty sure the test was this one. An abstraction of a test ID, ideally independent of execution, can be scripted or exploratory, can be excused. Yeah, that's the test. Those I'm sure. What's the set? A task for executing a group of tests in a given system. Used to define. So what do I have here? So I have done. I'm going to cry. I don't know which one these are. So I have done test set. I have done both a flat order list, and I used to define test cases, and it didn't like it. So we're going to go with that. A test plan No, I think it's like this. Still no. Jeez Louise. You know what? I'm going to stop guessing. There's got to be a way to go up and get these. Okay. Let's just open these up because clearly I don't know what these are, but these are where the answers are at. Sorry, folks. It only takes me a second to figure out how to answer. I told you all at the beginning, I don't like taking tests. I warned you all. Okay, let's start the test. 5th time's a charm. Globally, check. This one, test plan, is a way to define scope for testing. A aggregating, consolidating multiple iterations. So that's the test plan. Check. Test execution is a task for executing a group of tests. Check. Getting the right answer this time. Uh-oh, I closed out the rest of it. Nope, I have it over here. A test is an abstraction of an idea. I had that one right. A precondition, I had that one right. And then the test set is a flat order list. Okay, now we should be good. Yes. Uh-oh, what did I do? No, not that one. Yes, finally. 1,000 points. 10,000 points for completing the tests. Start the survey. And A, that test was hard. And A. And let's give it an 8. All right, let's go to next. And I believe we're done. So we're going to complete the unit here. That only took 32 minutes. We are basically done with Xray Setup for the cloud. And this is it. We're going to hit the subscribe button, drop a like, and we're going to come back and do more because this is one of 11 courses. We are then going to come through, and I now need to do project creation with Xray for cloud. So again, hit that subscribe button, drop a like. We're going to live stream this next one as well. We're going to come back tomorrow, though. I don't have the time today to do the rest of these, but we are going to be going through it. And just as a friendly reminder, the Xray Essentials for Cloud, I've already done this one. I've already done the Xray Essentials for Cloud, and we're going to be dropping it in the video section here. And so subscribe so you can see, and you'll know when I drop those other videos. And then we're going to go do project creation with Xray for Cloud. So let's take a peek. Let's take a look at what this one's all about. And so in this course, you're going to learn how to choose the most appropriate space organization strategy for Xray in Jira Cloud. So this is an interesting one. So we're going to be able to choose whether we do it all in one space, separate test space, or dedicated test repository. So good information on this one. Again, hit the subscribe button, folks. That's actually, we'll end it here. I want each one to be its own individual course. We're going to come back with space creation with Xray for Cloud. So again, hit the subscribe button, folks, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you also for watching.